It's a big world after all. Honduras, I'm home. Honduras, the country of coffee and rainforests. It's also the first place to ever be called a banana republic, which is in fact an actual term and not just a clothing store. But currently, Honduras is the place of a lot of political unrest. You may have heard that President Trump pardoned someone named Juan Orlando Hernandez, and that it's a big deal for some reason. We here at the Weekly Tweak wondered what the big deal was, and oh boy, are you in for a story worthy of at least 2 Netflix original series and a true crime documentary. We're going to start in 2011 when the Liberty and Refoundation movement was founded, Libre for short. It was started by Manuel Zelaya, a former president of Honduras, who was dragged out of office during the 2009 coup d'etat after Zelaya wanted to include a 4th ballot box at the next election to vote on amending the constitution, including changing presidential term limits. It's also rumored that the Honduran government wanted Zelaya out due to his relationship with Hugo Chavez, the then president of Venezuela. If you don't know much about Chavez, basically, he actually did a lot of good for Venezuela as far as providing funding for the poor and lowering poverty rates, but he did it in kind of a dictatorship kind of way, so it was a bit polarizing. Moving on, Libre, the leftist movement started by Zelaya, worked tirelessly to get their preferred candidate in office, and in 2021, they succeeded and helped Xiomara Castro get more than 50% of the votes. Castro, fun fact, is Zelaya's wife, a true power couple. Unfortunately, Castro was not the savior that the working class of Honduras thought she'd be. She had promised transparency and failed to deliver on priorities like fighting corruption and pushing drug traffickers out of politics. One of the first things she did was push for a broad amnesty for people put in confinement during Zelaya's presidency. This goes against everything the Libre movement stands for. Then, in 2021, she announced that she was going to end the extradition treaty with the United States. The treaty had been in place for over a century, and since 2014, 64 Hondurans have been extradited to the US, largely on drug trafficking charges. Among those was former President Hernandez. An extradition treaty means that Honduras can send drug traffickers to the US for legal punishment. So Castro at this point is openly going against every reason Libre voted her in for. But after talking with the Trump administration, Castro posted this on X. I announced that I have reached an agreement with the new American administration so that the extradition treaty will continue with the necessary safeguards for the state of Honduras. So those extradited remain in US prisons, except for Juan Orlando Hernandez, who Trump pardoned just a couple of weeks ago. But who is this Hernandez guy anyway? He was the Honduran president between Zelaya and Castro's terms. Hernandez was actually president for 2 terms. In the US, that is pretty normal, but in Honduras, that is constitutionally banned. A president cannot be reelected, but during his first term, Hernandez made an amendment to the Constitution to change that rule. Just a reminder, Zelaya tried to do a similar thing just a few years earlier and was literally dragged out of office for it. But the illegal part came from the Pandora case, where government funds were diverted through a network on non-governmental organizations to political parties, including Hernandez's 2013 presidential campaign. Money laundering and drug trafficking paid for Hernandez's campaign, allegedly. And Trump pardoned him from a 45-year sentence. Why? Why was he pardoned? Well, Trump claimed, without evidence, that his prosecution had been a setup by the Biden administration and that Hernandez was targeted because he was president of a country where drug cartels operated. Hernandez's trial lasted 3 weeks, and the prosecution is pretty sure, not 100% sure, but like pretty dang sure, that he was involved with over 400 tons of cocaine coming into the US. This decision to pardon him is still racking people's brains because there doesn't seem to be a solid reason why yet. But once again, drugs are winning the war on drugs. Back in Honduras, they're still in the middle of their current election, where the Libre Party's newest candidate, Rishi Moncada, clearly lost. I'm not surprised. Honestly, their last candidate did not do too good. But there is yet to be a clear winner as of taping this episode. The election was held over 2 weeks ago, and it's been a huge mess. The 2 candidates who have near equal chances of winning are Nazray Esfura and he has Trump support. And then there's also Salvador Nasrallah. As of now, the difference in votes for these two is only by 1.36%, with Asfura in the marginal lead. But the vote counts have been flip-flopping day after day, with each party claiming unfair counting. Nasrallah's supporters blame Trump's interference for the sudden spike in votes for Asfura. Asfura's supporters claim faulty voting technology, which actually is happening. A test run exposed deep flaws in the vote counting system. Only 36% of practice ballots were processed. And so now we were all just sitting and waiting, and as soon as the final results come in, we will make sure to let you know.